The proconsul gives the old man a choice: curse Christ, offer incense to Caesar, and live. Polycarp, bishop of Smyrna, 86 years old, answers, 86 years I have served him, and he has done me no wrong. How can I blaspheme my king who saved me? The crowd cries for his death. They build the fire, and when it fails to consume him, they run him through with a sword. The account of his martyrdom, written by his own church, is one of the oldest documents of Christian history. And it happened in Smyrna, the city to which Christ dictated the second of his 7 letters. Smyrna was called the crown of Asia, the ornament of Ionia, the most beautiful city of the Greek world. Rebuilt from ashes by Alexander's generals, it rose on the slopes of Mount Pagus, its streets descending to a harbor that rivaled Ephesus itself. It was a city of wealth and of pride, a city that had chosen Rome's side in every war, and had been rewarded. Its citizens boasted of their loyalty to the emperor, and in the year 29, Smyrna won the right to raise the first temple in the province to a living emperor, Tiberius. The imperial cult, the worship of Rome and Caesar, was born in Asia in the streets of Smyrna. The city's very name is a prophecy. Smyrna, the same word as myrrh, the spice of embalming, the bitter gum that was offered to Christ on the cross and used to anoint his body for burial. Myrrh is the scent of suffering and of death. And the church that bore the city's name was the church of suffering, the church that would be called, in every generation for 2 centuries, to die. Even the name of the city whispered what was coming: the bitter church, the dying church, the church that would be faithful unto death. To the angel of the church in Smyrna write, the words of the first and the last, who died and came to life. Christ introduces himself to Smyrna as the one who died, and rose. He speaks as one who has been where they are going, who has felt the fire and the tomb, and has come out the other side. And then, unlike Ephesus, unlike Pergamum, unlike Thyatira, Sardis, and Laodicea, there is no accusation. Nothing is held against Smyrna. In all 7 letters, only 2 churches escape rebuke entirely: Smyrna and Philadelphia. The suffering church is not scolded. It is comforted. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich. The church at Smyrna was poor in the only way the world could see. Its members were stripped of property, excluded from the trade guilds, cut off from the commerce of the city, denied the protection of the law. To be a Christian in Smyrna was to be outside everything. And yet Christ says, you are rich. The world's poverty and Christ's riches are measured on 2 different scales, and the church at Smyrna held the only treasure that mattered, the crown that is laid up for the faithful. I know your tribulation. Christ does not say he has heard of it. He says he knows it, from inside. I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. In Smyrna, the Jewish community was large, ancient, and powerful, and it was the church's most bitter enemy. It was the Jews of Smyrna, according to the martyrdom account, who stirred the crowd against Polycarp, who gathered wood for his fire. Christ's words are severe: a synagogue of Satan. The name of Israel, claimed by those who persecuted the followers of Israel's Messiah, had become, in the eyes of the risen Christ, the opposite of what it claimed. The church at Smyrna was caught between the imperial cult and the synagogue, and both wanted it dead. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and for 10 days you will have tribulation. 10 days. In the language of prophecy, a day is a year. The historicist reader has always seen in these 10 days the 10 great persecutions of the early church. Not 10 literal days, 10 waves of suffering, spanning 2.5 centuries. The devil is about to throw some of you into prison. Christ does not promise escape from the prison. He promises to be present in it. The 10 persecutions, as the church has counted them: Nero, who burned Christians as torches in his gardens; Domitian, who exiled John to Patmos; Trajan, under whom Ignatius was thrown to the beasts; Marcus Aurelius, under whom Polycarp died and the martyrs of Lyons were butchered in the arena; Septimius Severus, Maximinus, Decius, who demanded that every citizen sacrifice to the gods; Valerian, Aurelian, and finally Diocletian, the great persecutor, who sought to erase Christianity from the empire in the early years of the 4th century. 10 waves. 10 days. And in every one of them, the church of Smyrna's letter was read again: be faithful unto death. The age of the martyrs is the age the letter to Smyrna foretold. Ignatius of Antioch, on his way to the beasts in Rome, wrote that he was God's wheat, ground fine by the teeth of wild animals, to become pure bread. Polycarp, the disciple of the Apostle John, died in the stadium of Smyrna itself. Perpetua and Felicity, a young noblewoman and her slave, died in the arena at Carthage, Perpetua comforting her companions as the beasts were released. Justin Martyr, the philosopher, refused to sacrifice and was beheaded. The blood of the martyrs, wrote Tertullian, is seed. And the seed was sown across the whole empire. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. The image would have struck every Smyrnan to the heart. Their city was famous for its games. The crown, the stephanos, the wreath given to the victor, was the most honored prize in the Greek world. Athletes trained their whole lives for a crown of leaves that would wither. Christ promises a crown that does not wither, the crown of life. The victor in Smyrna's games ran to be crowned, the martyr in Smyrna's church died to be crowned. Faithful unto death, the race is not to the swift but to the one who does not quit, who runs to the very end, who finishes the course. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. The one who conquers will not be hurt by the second death. The first death is the death of the body, the fire, the sword, the beasts. The second death is the death that Revelation describes at the end of the book, the lake of fire, the final separation from God. To the one who conquers, Christ promises immunity from the second death. They may kill the body, Rome could do that, and did, for 250 years. But the second death, the death that matters, will not touch the one who is faithful unto death. The persecutor's power ends at the grave, the conqueror's crown begins there. The persecutions were intended to destroy the church. They failed. Every martyr's death was a sermon, every arena became a pulpit, every execution produced new believers. The church that was poor in Smyrna was rich, the church that was killed was multiplied. By the time the last persecution ended, Christianity had spread to every corner of the empire, and the empire itself was beginning to bend. The blood of the martyrs, as Tertullian said, is the seed of the church. The age that began with Nero's torches ended with an emperor who had seen the sign of the cross. In the year 313, the Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, toleration for Christianity across the empire. The age of persecution was over. The 10 days had ended. The church that had been faithful unto death came out of the catacombs and into the light, the persecuted church of Smyrna giving way, in the Historicist reading, to the imperial church of Pergamum, the next age in the prophecy. But the letter to Smyrna was not written for one age alone. It is written to every church that suffers, every believer who is poor in the world's eyes, every Christian who stands before the fire and is asked to deny. Do not fear. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. This is the Unsealed, history through the lens of prophecy.